Hello everyone and welcome back to Santa Monica and the second Piatigorsky Cup of 1966. We are continuing this short saga, and it is Robert James Fischer versus Borislav Ivkov. Bobby already faced Ivkov in the first half of the tournament. Bobby defeated him, took him some, I believe, maybe 50 moves. And it was a pretty cool game. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. I've covered it as well. But yeah, Bobby's trying to get back into the tournament. We already mentioned that he had that wonderful walk in the park with Spassky, and he got to socialize with some other players as well, and he sort of started having a better second half of the tournament. And whereas Spassky, who was just crushing everyone in the first half of the tournament, now is taking it easy a little bit. He got some 5 draws in a row, and Fischer is, after that 3-game losing streak, is now on a 2-game winning streak. If you guys remember, he lost to Larsen, Najdorf, and Spassky 3 games in a row, and now he defeated Križevci and Lajos Portiš, the last 2 videos that we've covered. I recommend you check them out. Really awesome games. And here we have a game that I'm sure you guys will enjoy. It is Fischer playing the King's Indian attack, and we've covered a couple of games where Fischer plays the King's Indian attack. He just plays it so well. He finds these attacking ideas, and okay, his opponents of course do make some mistakes, but the themes that he finds, the checkmates that he finds, if you guys remember the Sus of 1967 and Fischer's game against Lamsuren Mjegmarsuren, I mean, that was a spectacular game. I will even put a link in the description below if you guys want to see it. Mind-blowing. But yeah, let's check it out. Ivkov lost with white. Now he has a chance to strike back with black. Let's see if if he can do it. So Fischer opts for pawn to e4, and Ivkov replies with pawn to c5. Against Mjegmarsuren, it was a French defense, and then Bobby went for the King's Indian attack. But here, after knight to f3, Borislav goes for pawn to e6. And if you think about it, it's sort of like the French defense, because it's as if you played e4, then let's say black played the French defense, you played knight to f3, and then black played pawn to c5. So a bit of a weird move order, but it's not unheard of. We have pawn to d3. Fischer opts for the King's Indian attack setup. We have knight to c6 and pawn to g3. We have pawn to d5, knight b to d2, and bishop to d6. We have bishop to g2 and knight to g to e7. Castles, and now we have knight to h4. This is a very well-known position even today. Main move is rook to e1, knight to h4, a close second. We have pawn to b6 and pawn to f4. D captures on e4, D captures, and bishop to a6. Attacking the rook here, rook to e1, and there are a couple of games that reach this position, but only after this game was played. Bishop to c7 is the top move now, and the position is considered equal here. However, Borislav played pawn to c4, and it is now, as of move 11, that we have a completely new game. So let's see how Bobby tackles this. He plays pawn to c3. He doesn't want this pawn to go any further, and we have knight to a5, freeing up this diagonal for Borislav's light square bishop, and we'll see what happens with the knight. Fischer has to be very careful. Of course, advancing the pawn will allow this knight to come to b3, and he has to figure out how to go about this. And it seems like you can just play pawn to a5, which attacks the bishop and the rook on a8, but it's not really an issue. The bishop moves with check, and once you tackle that, there are many moves you can go for here, like queen to d3 is a beautiful attacking setup, and you don't really care all that much about that rook on a8, because even though, okay, you can play it, but I mean, this bishop is controlling the entire board. You're even hoping this bishop comes to e4 at some point, goes after the black king, and the rook, while it might join the game, maybe via the d-file, for the moment, we do prefer the light square bishop. So after this king to h1 move, we have knight to d5. And knight to d5 is not the most precise way to play. Better was to play bishop to b7, trade off the light square bishops right away, or even maybe harass the rook a little bit with bishop to f2, or maybe go queen to d3 right away. So all possible. Maybe queen to c7. Again, you're always happy to offer that rook. But knight to d5 allows Fischer something that should not be allowed. And that is knight to e4. And now after bishop to b7 by Borislav, Fischer goes queen to h5. You could also consider pawn to f5 right away, but Fischer's idea is also very, very nice. Queen to h5, we have knight to e7, and now Fischer could go bishop to e3, and you'd probably be expecting that. I mean, this bishop is incredibly strong. Both bishops are. I mean, the bishop pair is incredible here that Borislav has, but Fischer just goes pawn to g4. He says, well, that is very nice. I don't see how you're planning to break through here, and f5 is coming. And like I said, in the game against Lamsuren and Mjegmarsuren, it's incredible how Bobby finds these attacking setups in the King's Indian attack, but they always somehow happen. And here we have a position where it's very hard to find a move for Borislav, but knight to g6 is that move that should be played. Point being that after knight to g6, he wants to trade off some pieces, like he wants to trade the knight and he wants to trade the bishop for knight and play g6 and stop the attack. The problem is after knight to f3, of course Bobby would try to stop the exchange. You cannot play bishop captures on e4, and you will not have to worry about bishop captures on e4. Rook will capture, and now you have this tricky queen to d1 check. And in order to play this, you have to be very, very precise. For example, rook to e1, attacking the queen, rook 8 to d8, offering a queen. And now you really have to struggle to find the winning idea. The winning idea is queen to h3, still with a very, very difficult position. But I will show what happens if you actually capture the queen. Then comes rook captures. You have to block with the bishop. Rook captures, and now after king g2, you capture the bishop. And now the rook is hanging, and also if you capture the rook, knight f4 check forks the king and the queen, and black is winning here. So it's not that knight to g6 is winning for Borislav, it's just that it's going to be very, very hard for Bobby to find the winning idea. He probably would have found it, but you know, would make for a much more difficult game. In the game, bishop captures on e4 was played right away, and now the knight is not on f3 as you haven't chased it away, so Bobby can play bishop captures on e4 right away, and it seems like not that big of a deal, just pawn to g6. The idea, if you go knight to g6 now, because it does appear to be you know, fairly similar, is that now knight f3 is coming, and the knight to g5 is coming next. And if you stop that with bishop to e7, then f5 happens. And there's really not much you can try here. Like if you try captures, okay, the knight is attacked, knight captures on e5, all of a sudden f6, threatening checkmate. And once you block with g6 and an attack on the queen, you can capture, sorry, not that, you can capture on e7 and attack the black queen. So queen captures, you're going to play queen captures on e5, and after captures, you can count the pieces, but white is up 2 bishops, which is not, you know, how you usually end variations. So, okay, after bishop captures on e4, pawn to g6 by Borislav, we have queen to h6, and now knight to d5. Not really worrying about this rook. Borislav would be very, very happy if Bobby captured that rook on a8 and allowed the queen to enter the game, but he's trying to go after the f4 pawn and maybe to somehow, you know, get that knight into the game. We have pawn to f5 by Bobby. Now the threat being, of course, pawn to f6 and queen to g7 checkmate. Again, incredible how Bobby just makes these attacks happen. We have rook to e8 and now f captures on g6. Pawn to f6 now would be countered with bishop to f8, hence the rook e8 move. So f captures on g6, we have f captures on g6, and of course you have so many attackers, you don't need all of them. Knight captures on g6. And now if you capture, simply queen captures on g6. If king to h8, queen to h7 is checkmate, and if king goes to f8, of course there is bishop to h6 with check, king e7, and queen to g7 will be checkmate, queen to h7 will be checkmate. So you can choose whichever you prefer. So queen to d7, guarding against any future queen captures on h7, and now comes in just knight back to f4. Not a lot Borislav can do here. Point being that if you go queen g7, you don't really care about that. Knight captures on e6, attacks the queen. Also, the bishop now defends the queen here. And if you trade everything, let's say captures, and rook captures, you've also removed the defender of the knight. Here you will capture, fork the 2 rooks. Also, this rook is pinned. not a lot to do here. Rook e8, you're going to go rook 8 to d1. At some point, you will capture here, enjoy your extra material, and win the game easily. So after knight f4, rook 8 to d8 was played, and now knight to h5 by Bobby, going for the, well, you can simply capture on d5 and then fork everything that's going to be resigned. So king to h8, we have knight to f6. What do you play? Knight captures on f6, we have e captures on f6, and now rook to g8. And look at this now, bishop to f4, preparing bishop to e5 to go after the black king. Rook captures on g4, and now rook 8 to d1, attacking Borislav's queen on d7. And of course, you cannot capture. You would very much love to capture, because if rook captures, you capture with the other rook, but queen captures is checkmate. The queen is stuck here guarding the h7 pawn. So rook d to g8 was played. Boris now tries to sacrifice the queen, but of course, we're not going to fall for that. We're going to play something else, but the question is what? Many moves are winning. One is a forced checkmate in 6. So have at it. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Bobby while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this beautiful idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is pawn to f7. That is the key move. And for those of you who don't believe me, after this rook g to d8 move, if you capture the queen, then of course rook to g1 check, rook captures, and rook captures on g1 is checkmate. Let's not forget about our good friend the dark square bishop on c5. So after pawn to f7, it was in this position on move 29 that Borislav Ivkov resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Number 29 is very, very special for Bobby Fischer, but I don't have to tell you guys for what reason. And here you resign because what do you play? I mean, the queen is hanging, the rook is hanging. Also, the queen is no longer guarding h7, so queen captures on h7 is a threat. And also, by advancing the pawn to f7, Bobby freed up this diagonal for the bishop to land the crucial check on e5. So after you play queen captures on f7, it's pretty much, you know, just bishop e5 check, and that's it. Whatever you block with, queen blocks, rook blocks, or queen blocks here, doesn't matter. It's going to be a queen h7 checkmate, and that's it. No way to defend. The rook is pinned. And I mean, like I said, incredible how Bobby does it in the King's Indian attack. But if you haven't seen the game against Lamsuren Mjagmarsuren, first link in the description below, 1967 in Sus. A wonderful, wonderful game to check out. Also, the entire tournament is also worth checking out. I have a playlist on it. So, you know, treat yourself to a nice playlist. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Fischer, making this his third win in a row. He has now defeated Lajos Portiš, Semir Reshevsky, and Borislav Ivkov 3 games in a row. Next game he faces Jan Haindona, and he will of course try to continue his winning streak, as Spassky is on somewhat of a drawing streak, but he racked up so many wins in the first half of the tournament that he just has a very, very comfortable lead, and Bobby is trying everything he can to catch up to him. And then we will have that Fischer versus Spassky second game of the tournament that everyone is waiting to see. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. For those of you who are maybe just joining us, these are the final standings of the tournament. Spassky won, half a point ahead of Fischer. And yeah, it was a pretty incredible event. Bent Larsen, third place, 10 out of 18. Wolfgang Unzika and Lajos Portiš with 9.5. Samuel Reshevsky also had a very strong tournament, tied with Tigran Petrosyan, Miguel Najdorf, Borislav Ivkov, and Jan Haindona. Those are the final standings. But yeah, we're gonna talk a bit more about that after we check out a couple of other crucial games. And yeah, hope you guys are enjoying it, and I'm very much enjoying covering this tournament. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank David Gasparian, Ferald Gerald, Mike Manson, Rohaho Hochstetla, and More Classics for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And check out first link in the description below. Treat yourselves to a nice game. See you soon.